it's Kristina of Crafty Paws. I'm here to share a really special Halloween project with you guys. I made this luminary with a whole bunch of diamond dies, and this is a design team project for diamond dies, as well as with some super spooky cute Digis from Dr. Digis, where this project is going to be a guest design team project. And I just love how it came out. I'm going to share with you guys the products that I used, and then I'm going to share with you guys the process of how I constructed this luminary. So first of all, the dies. For the overall structure, I actually used the Nesting Pockets die set, and I used the two largest ones and flipped it so that it would look almost like a tombstone frame around each panel. And then for each of the scenes, I used a whole bunch of different dies. So in this scene, I used the spooky tree, this one right here. And I also used the tombstone set with this tombstone and this tombstone. And this cross is actually from the coffin set. I just used the cross from the middle there and added it to the top of that tombstone. And that's it for that scene. And this really cute, spooky Hello Kitty kind of character is Freddy Krueger Kitty. This one here, I actually use, this is the only die that I used from another company. This is an old CC Designs spooky tree. And I just wanted something different in the background here. And then I used the bats set here with the 3 different size bats as if they're flying away. And this is the Jason Killer Kitty. I just think they're so cute. And then for this scene, I used the spooky house, this one right here. And the little rails in some of the windows, I actually used from the Frankenstein set that I think are like the stitches for the scars on the Frankenstein. And I just used it for little window frame. And then lastly, this one with the pinhead kitty, I used the Spooky Spiderweb mini album die set. This is the large one. And then this spider is actually from the Spooky Spider web set with the smaller web, but I wanted the larger web and I wanted the big spider. Oh, and I don't know if I shared with you, this little killer kitty is the Hannibal Lecter, Dr. Hannibal Lecter kitty. I just think they came out so cute, and all you have to do to set this up is actually use a flameless little tea light, which you can pick up at like the Dollar Tree or whatever. And next I'll show you guys the construction for how I created this and share also the coloring, the Copic coloring of a couple of these killer kitties. So I made this entire luminary using Nina Premium Extra Heavy cardstock. I wanted that extra sturdiness, and this is 100-pound cardstock. And I'm putting through the 2 largest of the Nesting Pocket dies from Diamond Dies and using that Sizzix Big Shot to cut out that frame. Now I'm going to cut little strips. This is about not quite half an inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch wide. And I'm going to cut those little strips, 4 of them, so that those can be the seams where the various frames can be attached to one another. And I'm just taking my scoreboard and my bone folder, and I'm going to score that right down the middle to create little hinges, basically, that will connect each of the frame for each of the panels of the luminary together. And I'm just scoring it with my bone folder, and then I'm folding it and making sure that it's a nice tight crease down the middle of those little strips. And now I'm going to take some art glitter glue. You guys know that that's my favorite wet glue with a fine tip nozzle. And I'm going to put that along the little strip and attach that so that it becomes a hinge for one frame to attach to the frame next to it. And I'm just going to make sure that the bottoms of those tombstone hinges, tombstone frames align together so that the luminary will stand up flat, straight on whatever surface, table, banquette, or whatever I put it on. And I just want to make sure that it's lined up so that it creates a nice, clean, crisp corner. And now I'm taking some vellum. I have some plain clear kind of white vellum as well as some pinky vellum that's a little ombre. And I'm just using the largest of the pocket dies and running that through. I'm showing you both colors of vellum. I actually like both of them. The pink one actually kind of has a fiery look to it when you put a tea light behind it, but I basically had scraps that I wanted to use up, and it just fit that largest pocket die. And the pocket die is so large that you can't really put a bigger piece of paper on the Big Shot without it crinkling. So I cut it down so that it would fit across my Big Shot. And now you see me cutting just a shaving off the sides of the vellum pieces and on the sides and on the bottom. And that's just so that the vellum piece won't kind of come all the way to the edge of the frame and won't, it won't be visible from the front. And I just did that just as a kind of finishing touch, basically. You don't have to do that, but I like having that little extra room around that vellum piece. And I'm gluing all of those down using more of that wet glitter glue. And I put 3 of the frames together and then this one separately so that I could not worry about how I was gonna make sure that the vellum stuck really well to that frame. So you see me having put 3 of them together and now the 4th putting that hinge. And remember, none of the inside structure of this luminary is going to show from the outside. So even though the other hinges are hidden by the vellum pieces, this last one isn't, but that's totally fine. And I'm going to attach that last frame or panel with that hinge mechanism. And I'll do the last one right there so that it forms a square, basically. The 4 pieces are attached together, and the last piece here I'm going to do at the very end, just again making sure that the bottom of each of these panels is lined up so that when it becomes a full luminary, that square, it will lie flat on any tabletop. And that's it. I love using the wet glue because it gives you a little bit of wiggle time so that you can get everything just straight. And that's the structure, that's the construction of the luminary. And now I'm just taking more of black cardstock and adding these various diamond die, Halloween dies, and I'm just gonna run them through. I'm not gonna show you all of it. I just wanted to show you how quick and easy it is to create these silhouette scenes. It's just running it through your die cutting machine and you'll end up with all of these great pieces to play with and design a little scene with. I'm using a We Are Memory Keeper's little pokey tool to get the windows out. And now I just wanted to show you how I created the foreground of some of these scenes. I'm using the largest pocket die and I'm running it through with a black scrap that was left over from cutting out the frames. And you'll see that I'm just going to hand cut out that hill. I did 3 of them for 3 of the panels, and then the 4th one with the spider web, I don't need a foreground. But that's it. It's just basically doing a smooth kind of curved cut with a pair of scissors, and that's the little hillside. Now I thought I would share with you guys just some quick Copic coloring. These images, as you can tell, are really simple. That's kind of that cutesy, kawaii, Japanese cutesy Hello Kitty look, and these Digis are perfectly designed just like that, and so they're really easy to Copic color. If you're interested in the particular Copic colors that I used, you can check out my blog post, which I will link to in the description box below. But basically you can see I didn't want to leave anything stark white, even though Hello Kitty I think sometimes appears as a white cat. I wanted it to look a little bit more dimensional, so I'm using a cool, I think that's a 00, just to create a little sense of dimension with the coloring. Now I have to admit, I had to look up Jason, who's from Friday the 13th, and remember that his actual jumpsuit is colored blue. So I couldn't remember if it was green or blue, and I think it actually depends on what movie from the series you look at. But I decided to color up this Hello Jason with a blue smock. And I'm just using some standard blues. These are usually the blues that I use for coloring up denim. And I just thought I would give him kind of a rough look um, for the little blue jumpsuit that this Hello Jason is wearing. And I think next I'm going to color up the hockey mask. And again, I didn't want to leave it just plain white, so I'm using, I believe, a warm gray. And I wanted to give the little breathing holes from the hockey mask some dimension, as well as the eyes holes for some dimension. So I'm using a slightly darker warm gray just to add some dimension and some depth to this hockey mask. And I'm blending it all together again, and then I'm going to reestablish the shadows again around each of the little air holes. And I think that makes the image come to life, even though, like I said, this is a very simple cartoony kind of image. I think adding those little details helps. And next I'm going to show you not all of the fussy cutting. As you can see, I cut around the kitty with my favorite spring scissors, those Fiskars spring-loaded reverse scissors. But I also wanted to show you guys that I needed to use an X-Acto blade to cut out the little areas between the image pieces. And around the whiskers, you can see I left a little white space because I wanted to make sure that the whiskers showed up in front of the black die cut pieces that are going to be in each scene. And I did go through the extra step of inking around the edges of the fussy cut areas, not the whiskers, because I wanted to keep the edges of the whiskers, that white area, white, but everything else I'm inking up with a tuxedo black Memento marker, even the little hole areas that I cut out with the X-Acto blade. And I think that gives a nice finished look. Next, I'm coloring up the Hello Pinhead, I guess. Pinhead is a character from Hellraiser, one of my all-time favorite horror movies. And some of them have like a blue cast to their skin. So I'm using a pale blue. It's a B32, along with the cool grays that I've been using, the C00 on the Hello Kitties. And I'm just going through and using the blue around the creases, I guess you could say, around each of the lines from pinhead to pinhead and coloring those with the blue, and then going through and blending out with that C00. And I think it gives a nice kind of, undead look to the Hello Pinhead. And then I'm gonna use the classic Hello Kitty colors for the bow. I'm using a red trio. This is an R24, 27, and a 29. And I think that gives a really true bright red with some dimension to the bow. And I'm just blending it out there with a medium tone, and then again, just smoothing everything out with that light R24. For the pins themselves, I'm using a couple of colors. I'm going through with a YR26, that's the lighter, and then a slightly darker golden color, a Y28. And I'm just going to go through and color all the little pins, as well as the puzzle box that the Hello Pinhead is carrying or holding. And, the details in the puzzle box are actually, I think, more dark, but I didn't want to have it so dark that it wouldn't contrast well against the gown or cloak that I have the kitty wearing, which I'm coloring up with darker gray tone like the character Pinhead in the movies. And I'm going to start off with the lightest gray for the base undercoat of color, and then going through and adding the shadows. And I'm marking in where I think the shadows would be. And I actually made the puzzle box kind of see-through. The center area I'm keeping full solid, but around the edges I thought it would be fun to pretend like you could see the Hello Pinhead's gown showing through, as if the puzzle box is more see-through. And I'm just adding some details to her little gown there, her cloak, by adding some fold shadows so that it looks like it's not just a flat front on that gown or cloak. I wanted to look like there was some dimension and flow to the cloak that the Hello Pinhead has on. I'm going back in and reestablishing the darkest shadows again, because as you know, with Copic coloring, when you add the lighter tones, the layers of the lighter colors, it bleaches out the darkest shade. So it's good to go back and forth. I go from light to dark to medium and then back again to dark, just so I can get a good rounded color, a full spectrum of light to dark. And I'm going through and coloring up the kitty's hands and feet, again, adding that blue undercast look. Also to the ears, I wanted to add just a little bit of that blue to give that undead look. And that's really it for the Copic coloring. If you're interested in any of the other characters that I colored up, all of the colors are listed on my blog post, as I mentioned. And this last segment is just me gluing them all into position. I wanted the scenes to be full, but not super busy, because I did want to highlight these killer kitties, but still have a spooky scene behind them. Now remember, if you want to make any purchases of dies, whether they're Halloween dies or other dies, you can always use my coupon code THANKSKristina with a K at Diamond Dies for 10% off plus free worldwide shipping on all orders of $35 or more. And today only, I think today is the last day of the sale, at drdigi.com you can get these killer kitties for half off. So it's today, October 31st, 2017. There's a great sale going on at Dr. Digi's. I hope you enjoyed this process video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys are having a wonderful, spooky, crafty day.